So how did emotional logic help you personally?
I think initially it helped me to make sense of much of my early life. Um, I'd never thought of myself as a person who was grieving. Um, but the more I looked into it and thought back, I could see quite clearly that this was so relatable to me in much the way you've described.
Mm.
How stuck I'd become.
Yes.
Um, Perhaps how invested, like many of the clients I worked with, how invested I'd become in trying not to feel what I was feeling. Um, and some of the sophisticated, risky behaviors that they use, I could see that in myself. I was trying to manage away emotions, not feel what I was genuinely feeling. But as you suggested, emotions are messengers. They don't like to be ignored. They're trying to tell us something. Um, Through my 40s, because I'm in my 50s now, of course, but through my 40s, difficult decade for me, divorce and lots of death, my mum, my dad, my young sister. Um, I think emotional logic saved me, absolutely saved me. I don't know how I would have managed any of that. I always think of one example, it comes to mind. It was about 10 years ago now when my sister died. She'd always had issues with alcohol, and just when she seemed to be coming out of the woods, it got the better of her quite suddenly. Anyway, I I dealt with everything. I was the only relative around at that time, so I dealt with all the practical issues, and we managed to give her the best send off we could. I took 6 weeks off work, and I remember I don't think I'd really grieved. I suppose I had in a way, but going back to work 6 weeks later, you see, my sister and I had been really close for those last couple of years. I used to go and visit her a lot. My relationship had broken up, and I was feeling a little lonely, so I would go and see her. We'd sit there, have a cup of tea, and talk, and put the world to rights. And I always felt welcome, and we got on probably better than we ever had. So 6 weeks later, back to work, 5 o'clock, time to go. And then it hit me in a way it hadn't done since she passed. What am I going to do now? 5 o'clock. This is where I would go and see her,
Mm.
but there's no her to go and see anymore. Um, that threw me. However, emotional logic to the rescue. What have I lost? Well, I've lost my sister. I can't get her back. But one aspect of the relationship with my sister was just having that space, somewhere to go, someone to talk to, somebody to connect with. And I didn't have to lose that as well, did I?
Mm.
And it got me thinking, who else did I know? Who else had I had close connections with? And I looked up an old friend. We came through the counseling training together. Hadn't seen each other for a few years. I phoned her. She answered. I asked, is it okay if I come round? She said, I'll get the kettle on. And just in that act, I think I was able to recover something really important. I would never have thought to do that. I would never have known to do that. I wouldn't have been aware of what my losses truly entailed. So this stands out for me as probably the best example of how we can use this approach.